Hello everyone, I'm Mrs. Midnight and I welcome you to the fourth and last part of the guide to win the event full marks. At the beginning of these videos, I told you I would explain at the end why I don't recommend to buy gems to win this particular event. So as promised, here you have my reasons to not like to depend on this resource. For starters, in this guide you can see that I began with 5 gems, and that plus the ones that I earned by playing minigames, by feeding creatures, or by watching at videos, were more than enough to win. So in many cases, it's not even necessary to make that expense. Same as with coins, the problem with buying gems is that no matter how many you buy, there can always be someone that buys more than you. And to illustrate my point, I'll show you this time that I got the second place because over the night, the person that was below me outran me by more than 1,000 points. A weak point of my guide is that it's not big spender proof, but to be perfectly honest, no guide can compete with that because the amount some people can spend in mobile games is impressive. In one occasion, I got the 5th place with almost 2,000 points, because the first place had more than 4,000. At first I thought he maybe had used the boost, but I already tried it and at least in my experience that's not enough to get that score. So I'm almost afraid to ask how much he spent, and even worse, how much did the second place spend, because he was a few places of reaching him and he did not even win. Granted, it's completely valid to spend money in games you enjoy, but in my personal opinion, there are better ways to spend your gems in this game than in this type of events where you do not only depend on yourself, but on what other players do and what they are willing to spend. No matter how big the temptation is, do not try to compete with the people that spend huge amounts in this. Don't forget that the biggest your expense was, the bigger the rage will be if someone beats you. The helps you can get with the gems bring minimum benefits and cost a lot. So before using several to decrease waiting times, buying energy, or buy the boost, stop for a second and think if the benefit you're getting is worth the expense. If it can be the difference between winning or losing, then maybe it can be worth it to take the risk. But if they will only help you complete 1 or 2 squares of the board, most likely it will be better to save them for later. But now, let's say that the competition is way too strong to not help yourself with gems. In that case, I'll give you some tips to spend them in the best way possible to make your investment really worth it. Preferably, use them only to change the tasks and be selective. If there are multiple impossible tasks, start by changing either the worst of them or the one that's more important to complete the pattern. Unless they really are impossible, try not to change the squares on the edges, because if you get a worse task, it will be twice as expensive to change it, and not doing the squares on the edges makes it even harder to get the triple or spell pattern. If after changing a task you get a worse one, do not change it again unless you're running out of time and it's key to complete the pattern. Don't forget that the second time you change it, it will cost you 15 instead of 5. Don't use them to reduce the waiting time in interactions. It will cost you a lot of them, and the benefit you will get will be minimum because in the best case scenario, you will only complete 1 square of the whole board. Unless it's about to end and you do not have time to wait for the energy to recharge, do not use them to finish classes either. My recommendation to prefer short classes in general is precisely to prevent this from becoming necessary, because for this event you're gonna need to finish a lot of classes and soon that expense will become unsustainable. In any case, I do not recommend you to spend more than 55 gems in this. It will always be preferable to learn to organize and optimize your times than to spend that amount of gems in something that will help you complete 2 or 3 squares at most. Never, and I mean never, use them to buy customizations. The clothes and accessories that you can buy with gems tend to cost a lot, some of them even more than 200. So unless you wanted that garment in particular anyway, I do not recommend you to buy it just to complete 1 square. The boost to increase your score costs several gems, 55 to be precise, and it will only increase your score by 1.5 times. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention that it only lasts for a day. So for starters, in order for it to really help, you should wait until you're less than a day away from completing the board. And to really see a significant increase in your final score, you would pretty much need to use the boost every time you complete a pattern. So for example, imagining you completed 4 during the event, that would mean more than 200 gems spent. If you're thinking of spending an important amount of gems, meaning more than 100, I strongly recommend you to wait until the end of the event is closer. If you start spending a lot of gems right away, you'll alert the other players and they may start doing the same and maybe even beat you. But if you wait until there are less than 24 hours left, it will be harder for other players to catch up with you by buying gems because they will not have that much time to complete many tasks and boards. Actually, many times this is more than enough to discourage other players to try to buy gems to beat you. Don't spend money that you don't have or that you need for something else. And don't go into debt with a credit card to buy some gems that are not even a guarantee that you will win the event. Last but most importantly, if you're going to spend in gems for this event, beware it may be worth nothing if anyone else decides to spend more. And don't say I didn't warn you. Oof, this guide turned out to be much longer than I thought. But I hope it was enough to cover all the important points, and most importantly, I hope that you find it useful the next time you play this event. Personally, this strategy has helped me a lot to be able to frequently win the outfit or at least the golden books without needing to spend money or neglect the rest of my life to dedicate only to play. So if you found it helpful as well, I'd really appreciate that you let me know in the comments and leave me a like and subscribe to the channel so you can continue watching more guides like this. Oh, and also don't forget to click on the bell so you do not miss next time I upload a video about this wonderful game.